Hello and welcome to the Biohack Her podcast. I'm Azra Alagic, your host and founder of Biohack Her. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach specialising in longevity for women, a health and wellness journalist, writer, corporate consultant, and a biohacking advocate. Biohack Her is a space where we can explore ways to optimise our health to live well longer. Whether it's through improving our nutrition, exercising, cryotherapy, supplementation, technology, and more, I'll be bringing you information and interviews with the best longevity experts to help you understand what you can do to optimize your health, prevent disease, and slow down or even reverse the symptoms of aging by taking control of your unique bio-individuality. Want to know more? Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Biohack Her podcast. As some of you might know, I'm not only a podcast host, but also an integrative nutritional health coach. As part of my mission to help women live well longer, I'm excited to share that I have launched my first Biohack Her product, my Good Gut Granola. I created this recipe after navigating my own gut health issues and struggled to find healthy breakfast options that didn't taste like cardboard. My cranberry and walnut granola is gluten-free and vegan, and each ingredient has been specifically chosen because of its science-backed ability to support longevity. And I haven't compromised on taste to achieve a healthy granola. But I apologize in advance because once you start eating, you will become addicted. It's that Moorish. It's now available for my Australian listeners, and you can purchase it online from www.biohack-her.com, where you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Biohack Her, Live Well Longer, a beginner's guide to biohacking for women to optimize your health. G'day guys, how you doing? Thanks for taking the time out of your day today to tune in and listen to the pod. I know how important your time is, and I'm really grateful that you've chosen to spend time with me and my guest today. With the average person now living longer than ever before, it poses an important question. Are we set up financially to live well longer? Think on that for a moment. Most of us will have planned for maybe 10 to 15 years of retirement, but we're now living 30 years or more post-retirement. Have you planned for that? I know I haven't. And it might seem silly that I haven't, given I'm a biohacker and I've been biohacking for over 8 years now. But I guess in my head, I always thought or expected that I could continue to work and support myself if I needed to. I mean, isn't that why I'm biohacking in the first place? To be honest, I can't really see myself completely retiring. I'll always be doing something. And if I'm doing something, then I may as well ensure that something is bringing in some bucks, right? But my guest today, Nadine Esposito, says financial longevity is more than just ensuring we have enough money to support ourselves in the event that we live longer than anticipated. Nadine is the head of investment risk and control at Radicant, where she leads innovative investment risk strategies with a strong focus on longevity finance. Nadine says it's about improving longevity literacy. What's that, you're probably asking? Well, you're about to find out. I think this is probably one of the most important conversations I've had on this podcast. After all, what's the point of living well longer if we don't have the finances to support that? So if you're keen to ensure that those extra 30 years or more that you're planning on living will be well funded so that you can continue to do all the things you love, then grab a cuppa and join us to learn more. Hi Nadine, welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
Hi Azra, thanks so much. I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Well, thanks. Hey, when we first met, it was probably the first time that I've ever heard of longevity finance. So, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other people that think, what the hell is longevity finance? So can you explain exactly what it is and why it's becoming such an important topic in this space?
Sure, happy to. I know that some people, when they hear like finance, they go like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be too complex and too abstract. So for all the finance geeks now listening, please bear with me. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible to that everybody grasps the key essence of why it's so important, especially also for women, and why it's so fascinating, especially if you're interested in longevity and healthy aging. So per se, longevity finance, it's not a hard-coded definition, but there are now some studies and resources which all shape into the same kind of definition of it. And it's more or less understanding it's a financial sector product or target, and understanding the challenges, but also the opportunities that come with a longer life expectancy. It covers pension, it covers insurance, it covers investments, and it covers long-term care planning. In short, it covers all aspects that guarantee or try to guarantee financial security and financial resilience all throughout your life, and especially throughout your pension age, and with expected lifespan. So it comes also down to, maybe some people have heard it, on longevity risk and pension gap. That are two topics that are closely linked with it. Longevity risk, to explain it as short as possible, is the risk that your wealth or that your lifespan outreaches your wealth span. So in short, that you run out of money before you run out of life. So that's, to put it as frank as possible. And I mean, then pension gap is more also on the pension fund side, and then on the institutional side, that with layover principles, that literally we have too few young people who put money into the pension system to accommodate for all the older people. So they have less money and then actually run into the longevity risk of that you don't have any money or resources left anymore, but still are healthy or still are living. To put it as simple as possible.
Yeah, I mean, because we used to only live, 10 to 15 years post-retirement, right? And now we're living a lot longer. So how does financial planning change when you're aiming for a longer, healthier life?
Yeah, as you say, Azra, I mean, I'm more proficient in the Swiss pension system, which is quite an elaborate pension system. So when it was initially put up, we have been looking at men post-pension age 1 or 2 years, women something like 4 years. And then this whole pillar system built up. But as you say, all the systems are currently, which are nowadays in place, they are catered for people living 10, maximum 15 years post-pension age, like securely. But coming generations, or people who are also my generation, kind of, who focus on aging healthy, we have a prospect of being something like 30 to 40 years post-pension age, depending also, obviously, if pension age will be upped up. That would shift a bit. But I mean, that's a big difference. That's something like 20 years difference, and that's 20 years without income. So, and to put on here and mention here is that, and some people think like, okay, let's have the straight line. Okay, my expenditure with 20 is this sum, so I extrapolate that up to however 1900. That also won't work, because your whole spending pattern significantly change over age. That's also a part of longevity finance, knowing how the whole spending pattern change, and how, especially above 65, a large contribution of your spendings go towards healthcare related spendings, and your spendings in the travel and food and that domain reduce a bit. So, and the healthcare related costs, they literally just, they rise significantly, and really steep. And here it's about knowing that 20 years plus of those high costs, which are a lot out of pocket on top of what the insurance company pays. Because some people then tell me, oh, well, my health insurance pays everything. No, we're talking about your own out of pocket expenses. And that's the awareness of knowing that those plus 20 years of high costs for your health require that you have more put on the side early onwards, kind of in a way that you're prepared or have more savings to be able to cater for those high costs. And since I assume that maybe a larger percentage of the audience is maybe female, I'd like to raise here awareness that it's like super important for women because of two factors, or even three. So on one hand, women have in general current nowadays a longer sick span. So we have more years in bad health compared to men. That means especially those sick years are the cost intensive years. So we need even more money at older age. On top, in average, a woman, because of maybe part-time work, having children, being caregiver, lower paid job, just in general, women have a lower pension or lower pension savings in place. So that means that women have in general a lower saving, overall saving, but have higher costs. So it would be interesting to start as early onwards as possible with preventative medicine or preventative interventions to reduce those healthcare related costs. But now, most recently, I mean, with gender medicine and especially now biohacking for women, we know more and more that what we know, what works in the longevity medicine space is more tailored to men. So we are only at the start or only more widely exploring what actually is what women need to do to prevent or delay the aging, talking about, the perimenopausal state, the menopause, shifting that backwards with hormonal replacement, talking all about those topics. It's just that these three factors. So we don't know in detail what women need to do to age healthy. Women have a lower pension to cover for more costs, which makes the risk of age poverty more severe.
Yeah, definitely. And particularly because women live longer than men as well. So yes, we might, and that's probably, I'm assuming, why they're sick longer. And you're spot on in terms of, I think there'd be a lot of our listeners, female listeners, that would be relating to the fact that, oh yeah, I took 5-10 years off to have my children and care for my children, or, whatever other reason that they may have taken off, and then have not been able to put savings aside for that. What other big financial risks are there that people face when planning for longevity, do you think?
They underestimate the longevity risk. They underestimate that the savings are used before they die. So there are a couple of studies, and people severely underestimate that risk. Then also a lack of knowledge what it means to age. A lack of knowledge on how costly certain care is. Like if you want to have home care 24/7, that's very expensive. And then also a bit more on the medical side, a lack or not that in-depth understanding on your personal risks for onset of certain diseases, or just blankly no clue how healthy you are. And then obviously you can't predict everything, but just the risk that you develop very costly diseases, and you can't plan for this. But that's the big unknown which could happen.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point there in terms of the complacency of personal health management. And so that if we're not understanding how we're aging, and not proactively investigating how our bodies are aging or how our bodies are potentially getting a chronic disease, if you're not doing regular blood tests, annual blood tests, things like that, to be able to pick up things that you can get on top of it, ahead of, actually becoming really unwell. And so that proactive personal health management would actually then contribute to reducing that risk, I would think.
Definitely. And I like the term of that people should take over again a responsibility of their own health and see themselves as CEO of their own health. I don't want to say a complacency, but I feel, or when I talk with people around their health, it's about, I get the notion, depending on whom I talk with, obviously, but I don't care. And when I get sick, the medical system will take care of me. Yeah. But the key goal is try to not get sick, because being ill, you're not going to be ever as healthy again as you were before. So doing everything and educating yourself and trying on your own to stay healthy. And there is still a lot need for also promoting this approach among medical professionals, that they support more, that you do all the preventative checks and making them also cheaper. So here's that I'm looking now to the whole insurance company side of incentivizing people more to do all the preventative stuff. But also from a whole training perspective, we know that there are a lot of studies. If you give people like $5 or 5 Swiss francs on my side for going to the gym regularly at the start, this is an incentive. It's an extrinsic incentive. But to make it long term, there needs to be this switch to an intrinsic incentive, that you have the drive to do it. You see the purpose on doing it, and you actually like doing it because you feel better afterwards. So it's about really creating this intrinsic, this internal motivation to maybe be the best you can be. Obviously, a couple of people, not everybody can be like superhero, and some people, they just have health issues. But for me, it's about that everybody should try to be the best version of themselves without comparing to others, obviously.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that when it comes to personal health, that if you're just sitting around waiting to get old, then, you don't need to be waiting to get old. There are, as you've said, that there are proactive things. None of us want to get old, surely. Why would you want to get old? Why would you want to become unwell? Why would you want to get a chronic disease? If there are things that you can do, like biohacks, like proactive health management, then why not do those things? Why not take those steps to maintain your health so that you can live well longer? And yes, I take your point that unfortunately there are some people absolutely that, just will end up with a chronic disease, and that's something that, many people will continue to, try to, improve their health and fight against that chronic disease and so on. But I've also met people, as you said, that, they're very blasé about it, everybody's going to get old kind of mindset, and I think that mindset, because culturally we've been conditioned historically to say, oh, yeah, we're all going to get old. But that's, that's not necessarily the case anymore now with all the advances in medicine, right?
No, and in the end, you're also as old as your mindset is. I have seen people that I felt like, oh my God, you are 80 years old, and they were only 40. It's also a bit a mindset thing. And I'm I just started looking into the domain of psychoneuroimmunology, and we just at the start of understanding how powerful our will and our also response to stress is. So there is so much more to investigate in the whole brain, immune system, brain gut connection, that if you believe you're old, you're going to be old. But if you believe that you're still young, and you believe that there is so much still to explore, and, just being a bit curious and have a bit more positive attitude to things, that makes such a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the things that people can do to start prepare financially for a life that could extend right past, the traditional
Right.
retirement age?
So I would say there are some things you can do on the financial side and some things that you can do on the health side. That's why I say that I see in future convergence that the healthcare system, or that just health and finance will diverge towards one. So on the financial side, I would say or get interested in financial literacy. Get to learn and understand what it means to invest. But before, and that's a key thing. I see so many financial literacy trainings and also influencers talking about, like, literally, you need to invest, you need to invest, you need to invest. First, you need to learn how to save, right? Because before you can invest, you need money to invest. And so it starts with budgeting, it starts with saving, and then it starts with educating on how to invest, what's available in the market, and really knowing also your risk tolerance and how much risk you can bear emotionally, because we know that financial stress is one of the largest stress and has a big, big impact on your health. So I am totally pro investing, but you need to feel comfortable with it. The moment it stresses you, you went too far. Mm-hmm. So always have that in mind. And I'm just have discussions, because I'm working currently I'm working at a bank, and we all know, the bankers know that you need to invest anti-cyclical. But we have now we are on a bit more on a slower downturn of the stock markets, and if you now go like promoting heavily invest, and people who are not used to it, they invest and they then just see everything going red, they really freak out. So it's about a balance and knowledge. But back to your point, learn how to invest and learn a bit more what it is about the whole financial system. Then make a budget. Don't go over budget. Don't buy things permanently on credit. Like, literally, live to you means, because I don't want to put any pension system on the spot, but we are not there yet. So you can't rely on the pension system to cover for your expenses at older age. So if you can reduce your costs now, save money, get it to work, that you have this financial freedom or financial security at older age. And then a bit more also now going to the health side. As mentioned, the medical costs rise, and one of the best ways to keep those down, or to delay the big steep rise of healthcare related costs, is as early onwards with prevention. Learn what it means. You can name it biohacking, you can name it longevity, you can name it preventative medicine. I mean, those are just nuances, but just also here, health literacy. Get to know what it means. Get to know also what it means for you personally. There is no one size fits all. It's about educating yourself and then taking ownership. And I like to say, a lot of people, when you talk with them about wealth, for most people, wealth is what they have on the bank account, the real estate that they own, maybe some precious metals. But I personally, I'm a big believer that we should see, or that we need to see, our health as key asset and part of our wealth. Because the moment we see it as part of our wealth, we want to manage it and also are willing to invest. For me, for instance, paying for my gym membership, that's for me not a cost. For me, that's an investment, because I will see a return in future.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. I think you spoke there a bit about financial literacy, and I think that for some people, myself included, understanding how to invest, understand, getting really good financial literacy can be challenging, particularly if you're not a numbers person, right? So I'll put my hand up. I'm not a numbers person. I'm a word person, always have been. And that's my comfort space. So when it comes to understanding finances, I must say I've always struggled. It was not taught to me that well at school. My parents didn't teach that to me. I had to learn along the way. And I think that there may be some other women in a similar situation. So are there any particular financial education platforms that you think are great for women in particular to go and learn from?
Here I can more or less, I'm a bit more prone in that space on the Swiss side, because I know there are some great products by now in this domain, especially driven by women. I've also seen in the US, it's app-based. It's about educating what's an ETF, what's a fund, what's a stock market, what's investing. And they're nicely done. And I believe it's sometimes a typical female fear of, oh, this is going to be so complex. I don't know how to do it. I'm just afraid, just because still in our whole system, we are taught that finances is a male domain. Back in 2000, I wrote, 2002, I wrote my bachelor's thesis back then. If we need gender-specific investment products. And the result of a lot of interviews was that women are actually the better investors. They have this better gut feeling. So it's about the education and then just doing it. So there is no indication at all that women are not good or not as good as men at investing. It's contrary. If we compare female investors versus male investors, interestingly, that was back then, but there was strong indication that actually the female were even had a better sense of things and knew better how risky they can go for their profile. So I encourage every woman to have more curiosity in that space and dare. I mean, how I started, I took 100 francs and I told me, okay, this is the amount I can literally just digest when I lose it completely. And I started with this small amount, and then you get the security and you get the feeling, and then you can build up upon it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, just to ease into it. So if you do start to lose money, you don't freak out too much, like you said, and then just sort of gradually increase your investment from there. What role does investing in health and wellness play in longevity finance? Because I've just been thinking a little bit about how the cost to governments as well, in terms of people are not actually putting money aside, for their retirement, and with the view that they might live longer than they originally anticipated. How does that impact, government-funded benefits for people?
I think it's a big topic, and definitely the government will need to consider. There are more in future. They will need to consider revising the whole pension systems, but also just from a pure macroeconomic and microeconomic standpoint, if people would live healthier longer, the overall costs, healthcare related costs would decline, giving the governments more money to shifting it potentially to pension contributions. So I see there a big opportunity also for the government to step into the space of incentivizing and supporting and educating people more about health. But that's going to take some time, just because everything is kind of really slow in that space. So also here, I'm a big believer of taking things in your own hand, not saying against the government, but simply just not relying on it, but being more proactive and managing your own health, without being or without having to rely on the government as a last instance.
Yeah. Are there specific financial products or strategies at the moment that are tailored to those focused on longevity yet?
Not yet, but I've seen now. So I've seen now popping up in Switzerland one specific one. So there are now a couple who start to tailor specific to 50 plus. And one app in Switzerland just this week released a new tool. It's about translating it into Australian terms, that the moment you have your superannuation paid out, you invest it again and then have a monthly withdrawal, like a salary, that you don't overspend during 1 month, but you still have it invested, to make the money last longer. Because in that space, with investing your pension money again, you achieve that it will last for a longer time compared to if you just have it on the bank account. So what you want to do is to make it reach as long as possible.
Yeah, for sure. What's your take on the rising costs of advanced health treatments and biohacking? Like we're seeing some people out there that, spend a lot of money on biohacking, but I always say that you don't have to spend a lot of money on biohacking. But having said that, advanced health treatments can be expensive, and I don't know what it's like in Switzerland, but, it can be expensive here in Australia. How should people prepare for that?
They're super expensive. I mean,
yeah.
And it gets also to a point where even I have to say I just can't afford it. Even so, I would love to do a lot of things. But then I also kind of let's go back to what we know. We know 20%, 10 to 20% is genetics, and 80% is lifestyle. And if you look at those 80%, you achieve 80% with simple lifestyle changes, and the rest is then supplements and treatments and everything. So working on the basics will get you really far. So and that's the thing that so many people, I mean, you can get the most advanced treatments, but if you eat crappy and you don't sleep and you don't move yourself, the benefit of maybe having a stem cell treatment and plasma transfusion and name it will be marginal. So let's focus on the basics. And you also don't need a cryotherapy. You can just hop into a cold lake. And if you don't have a cold lake, you can fill your bathtub and put some ice cubes in it. I mean, you don't need to go as far and as fancy and longevity clinic and everything. And the interesting thing is, a couple of people say, well, eating healthy is so expensive. Yes, I get it. But I have two examples I really love is canned sardines in salt water, the superfood, right? But extremely cheap. And then frozen veggies and fruit tend to have more nutrients than if you buy the organic stuff at the supermarket for the tremendous prices. I'm shocked always in Australia how expensive fresh produce is. But get the frozen stuff, right? So you can even, play there. So it's back to the point of educating yourself, and there tend to be a lot of cheaper options. I also see that, if you really financially struggle and you have to juggle 2 jobs, you don't have time to go to the gym. Literally, you don't have the luxury of this. But, getting out in the morning, getting some sunlight in first thing in the morning, there are simple things. Just going out for a walk, intentionally breathing. Also there costs nothing. It's about the knowing about it, taking conscious time for it, and then doing it.
Yeah, I think moving your body, step one, and getting good sleep, as you said, are just, they're cost-free and make a huge punch on ensuring that you're living well longer. What are your favorite biohacks? You're a biohacker as well. So what are your favorite biohacks that you do?
I'm a strong believer of muscle-centric aging and biohacking. So for me, I have now intentionally put backwards the whole fasting attempts and what so forth to focus more on building up, especially as women entering or being above 40, building up this lean muscle mass and preserving my lean muscle mass and preserving my endocrine system. I personally am super sensitive to fasting and the stress that, for instance, fasted training has on me. So, focus on strength training, focus on also good zone 2, but also like I love Stacey Sims in that space. The at least 3 sessions of HIIT and sit per week, but also always conscious of that it's balanced nutrients afterwards. If possible, some nutrients before. Then for me, sleep is a big thing. I do invest. So I have a sleep aid cover. That's quite, but I love it in summer. I mean, with the heat, we don't have aircon in Switzerland, so summers are really bad.
You don't have aircon in Switzerland?
You don't know air conditioning around here.
Oh my goodness, I would not be able to survive without air conditioning.
And we have summers above 30, right? So if the temperature in the room doesn't go below 28, 30, you just suffer. So sleep, and then obviously magnesium glycinate and glycine before bedtime, and dark, cold bedroom if possible. I also try to not have my last meal closer to sleep than 3 to 4 hours. So for me, it's really sleep is a big focus thing. Then, nutrition, I try as possible to go unprocessed or not as processed as it can be. But I think here in Switzerland, we still have a big luxury that our products tend to be less processed compared to the US or even Australia. So for me, it's always when I go home or go back to Australia, I struggle for at least a week with digestive issues just because products are completely different. And I also incorporated a larger amount of meat in my diet, like lean cut meat. I was nearly vegan for a long time. And I have, from an energy space and from a blood marker space, reintroducing red meat made a big difference.
Is that because of your intention to try to build more lean muscle now? Is that why you've decided to start to incorporate more protein? And because, I mean, being vegan and then going back to eating meat, I mean, that's huge, right? That's a huge change.
I was looking into the whole topic of leucine and the importance of, triggering the muscle metabolism, that you just need this threshold which rises with age, and literally with vegan proteins you can reach it, but you need to consume such a high amount of calories to reach it that you won't get, you will then just put on weight. So that was one trigger. And then that I used to have 3 iron infusions per year, just to keep up the iron as well. And I mean, at first stage, I tend to also eat organ meat. So I went literally to nearly the other extreme, the small amounts of liver occasionally. So,
Yeah, very potent liver and all of those sort of organ meats. So I've tried the organ supplements, and I'm not great with those. I find that they repeat on me, so not great for my digestive system.
That's bad.
I think I'd rather eat liver directly if I have to. Are there any particular investment opportunities in the longevity space that you think people should be aware of? And what are some of the most exciting ones that you're seeing that are coming through? Because it's such a huge growth industry, biohacking, longevity. I mean, it's in the States, it's a $165 billion industry. and growing. So what's out there? What's coming our way, do you think?
Super interesting field from an investing perspective, as you mentioned, but most companies are not currently stock listed, so it means it's private equity investing. And private equity investing is a more riskier form of investing because your money is bound, tends to be really bound for like 10 to 15 years. So you can't withdraw your money. So I wouldn't advise it for people who are not really affluent or tend towards being rich. But I see now more and more there are now funds being developed where you can start longevity investing on a smaller ticket size, on a smaller budget. So in that space, definitely what I believe, and when you see all or talk with investors, definitely the whole stem cell and gene space. I think that's going to be a future, but we're not there yet. And where the money tends to be, it's still in the financial markets. So having companies that are focusing on the senior clientele, I believe that's a big success factor in future. So I see a lot of, if you just look that, I think something like 80% of wealth is currently with 50 people of being 50 plus, even shifting more towards that space. So why do we focus so much on what Generation Z wants? Why don't we focus on what the generation that holds most money wants? So if you have a company that starts focusing on that customer segment, I believe that's going to be a company that could have a long-term viability, sustainability kind of in a space. And then also, there has been this big project with the Swiss National Bank, the impact of the demographic change on stock listed companies. So just because the customer spending changes, a lot of or large corporations will need to adopt. So for being operationally resilient and successful, companies start to consider if they're impacted by the demographic change or not. So I believe those companies will succeed or have a lot of success in future.
Yeah, completely agree. What mistakes do you see people making when planning their financial future for longevity?
Not planning long enough, not knowing about their health status, because if your biological age is 30 years below your chronicle age, you need to completely plan differently compared if you have a chronic disease. As sad as it is, but it means a different planning. So knowing about your age, and then also being conscious and knowing about how you want your care to look like and how you want or what you want or future life events or what you're planning with or at pension age. Because I feel so many people go like, oh, with 65, well, then my life is lived. But do you still want to buy property? Do you want to go traveling? Do you want to build a house? Do you want to launch a business? For so many people, it's going to be 30 to 40 years. So you're going to do something with that time, right? Yeah. But everything needs money. So really having also a plan. Plus, it's so important just from a mental perspective to have still a purpose and a plan. So we see now here in Switzerland apps who start to educate people what it means to be in pension. Still being social, having a purpose, still being active. But all of that needs knowledge about how much it costs and planning for it.
Yeah, I think that there's certainly some more work to be done there here in Australia in particular. I don't have visibility or great knowledge of what's happening overseas necessarily, but I think here in Australia that there's certainly some work there to be done still. Do you think, you've spoken a bit about financial education, do you think financial education around longevity should start earlier in life? And if so, how?
It should start school. We need to start talking about money and talking about planning and saving and investing. It should start at school as early as possible. But not only about how to invest, the factor of how important it is to also stay healthy. That's for me where I say we need longevity literacy. Financial literacy and health literacy was yesterday, today. Future will be longevity literacy. And as early as possible.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to live well longer and make sure that their finances support that vision? You've spoken about a few throughout our conversation today, but what would be the number one thing that people should go away and do from today?
See health as your actually important asset, as your wealth, and treat it that way.
I love that. I think that that's a really important, powerful message. And I don't think that a lot of people get that yet.
Yep. It's being healthy is also what I say. Being healthy will be the luxury of the future.
Yeah. And on that note, one more question for you. What does it mean to you to live well longer?
I first focus on living healthier and then longer. So for me, it means being able to take care of myself longer, to not being dependent on people, and just to enjoy more things longer. I think that's a bit what I miss, especially around Brian Johnson and all his protocols. We need to enjoy also a bit what we're doing.
Yeah, because I think there's a balance, isn't there? I mean, sure, we want to be healthy. We want to implement the biohacks so that we can live well longer. But, if you are abstaining from that glass of red wine that you really, really, really want because you're out with a group of friends and having a lovely, beautiful dinner in Tuscany somewhere, then is the stress of avoiding that one glass of red wine going to actually impact you, more than having the glass of red wine?
Exactly. So it's about, I think a lot of people in the longevity space, they miss about the fact of balance and enjoying life and not in this hamster wheel of protocol and strict here and strict there, and because that's going to also release a lot of stress and cortisol, and that's not good.
Yeah. If you're doing all these biohacks with the intention to live longer, you also want to be having fun along the way as well. So that's why balance is important.
Yeah.
All right, Nadine, thank you so much for your time today. Look, I think that all the advice that you've provided today and the insights that you've provided are really going to be so beneficial to a lot of the listeners of the podcast. So thanks very much again.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And if you'd like to learn more about biohacking, go ahead and sign up on my website at www.biohack-her.com to get a free copy of my 5 top biohacks to get you kick-started. While you're there, you can also check out my blog page for more tips on biohacking. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can do so on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play. Let us know if there's anyone you'd like us to talk to in particular, and we'll endeavour to get them on the podcast. Until next time, remember to live well longer.